Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana Santiago, Resident Services Administrator with CMHA. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you here for Entrepreneurship and Building Your Own Business today. Today's webinar will share practical ideas and resources to help you turn your skills and goals into income. We're pleased to welcome our presenter, Mr. Kerry Austin, Assistant Director of Community Service with a Step Forward. Mr. Austin?
Good morning, everyone. I am so glad that Hannah's given me this opportunity to speak with you all. And like she said, I'm the Assistant Director here at Step Forward. Formerly we were called CEOGC for some of the old timers. They might remember that. But what she asked of me is to talk a little bit about maybe some of the basics and some of the things that will be necessary for folks that are looking to start a business. And one time we did run a workshop. It was pretty intense. It was a 4 to 6 session workshop going over what it takes to be a CEO. But I'm going to kind of condense a little bit of that information and talk with you today about just some of the foundational steps or some of the basics that you need as you get ready to start your business. And I look forward to any questions that you have as we move through this process. So let's move. What is the purpose of starting a business? You know, oftentimes, well, let's move up here. Oftentimes, you have an idea. And you say, well, I think I could really make some money doing this, or people would pay money to come either see me, and the businesses will fall in two categories. Either you're providing a service or you're doing a product. And there's all kind of conflicting information, which is easier, but I'll tell you, neither one is easier if you don't have the heart and passion that you're putting into it. What you really want to do is focus on what is it that I'm doing, and is this something that is duplicatable? Can I do it again? An example I give is that I think I'm a very good cook. My mom was a chef and she taught us to cook growing up. And I think I cook most things. I'm not good on desserts, but I can cook most things very well. And so if I were making a pot roast, per se, I think I could do it very well. And when people come over to visit, they enjoy my pot roast. But to do it the same way every time on demand or to customer likes or dislikes, that's a big difference, and that's the thing when you're looking at doing a business, is this something that I can do and deliver to an audience or or clientele on a regular basis. Like it says here, you have to have a formation process, the intent and clarity. When you're looking at what your business is, and what we're talking about briefly is a business plan. It has to be clear on what you want to do, what is your target, who's your target audience, and what is your competition. And then next to that, and aligned with that, is the legal aspect of it. What type of business are you going to have? Is it going to be just you and your finances, or you're going to have a loan, or you're going to have investors? And then you have to have certain ethical standards. For any person running a business, and all of us have come across someone and it looks like they're cutting corners. It looks like they're not doing things exactly how it needs to be done. And that really leaves a bad taste in your mouth in terms of the business. And then the final piece is the structure of that business. How is it structured? Is it a sole proprietorship? Is it just me and my money and savings? Am I in it with another group of individuals? So there are a lot of different ways that we can structure a business, and we have documents that kind of can help you understand that a little bit later. So your type of business, uh, profit versus nonprofit. And this is something that I didn't know maybe until maybe about 10 years ago. Can you make money in a nonprofit business? That's a good question. Uh, and the answer is yes. A nonprofit business just focuses on social missions usually or the community, but all of the funds that you generate generally go back into the business. And as the owner of that nonprofit business, you have to be compensated as well. So you can make money if it's a nonprofit business. For-profit businesses just are a little more direct. I'm going to sell as many of these items or services as I can and make as much money as I can. Uh, Examples of business types in the community, you know, the agency where I work, Step Forward, is considered a nonprofit entity. Do we handle a lot of money and funding, state, local, and federal funding? Yes. But we have to make sure all that money is focused on providing services to the public and tied into the services that we provide. For profit industries, the taxes are a little bit different, and you just have to be in tune to your responsibilities in terms of financially. There have been many, I think all of us, I grew up here in Cleveland in the Mount Pleasant area, and I could tell you of a lot of businesses that used to be there, whether they are corner stores or barber shops or beauty shops or, barbecue restaurants or whatever the case is, they were there and now they're gone. And sometimes it's just because they haven't managed their tax responsibilities. And so you need someone that understands that as you're moving through your business. And then choosing the right structure of your business is important. What type of personal income do you want to make? And then what type of impact on the community are you looking to develop? Planning. Early startup when you plan. All of us have an idea, and again, using my example, hey, I cook a great pot roast. I cook, I'm good on the grill with whether it's chicken or ribs or steaks or whatever it is. So how can I turn that activity into something that can make money? You know, first, as you're developing your business idea, you have to decide if there's a demand for what you do. And there are a number of ways of doing that. I mean, you may have to just do a survey. And some of you over the years, I'm sure, have had surveys or you've been given, hey, if you had a choice of eating barbecue chicken from this guy, Kerry Austin, or going out to KFC or Popeyes, which one would you do? And you would find out what the demand is. And then as you do your survey, you will find what the competition is going to be. And you need to work around that or within that. Um, and that's, and what we're getting into now is creating your business plan. And this is the part that usually scares most entrepreneurs away. And I hope I'm not scaring anyone away. I can't see how many of you are still with me, but the business plan um, is extremely important because it's giving the story of what you want to do and how you want to do it. Now, the business plan, it needs to have some information, but it doesn't need to have every bit of information about your business. It should be able to detail and give enough information so someone has a clear idea what you want to do. Pricing, operations, expenses, the revenues, how are you going to attract investors? All that's included in a business plan. And it's just not good enough anymore to say, listen, I got all these ideas up in my head. If you give me the money, I can run with it. So it has to be written down. A business plan on average is probably going to be somewhere about maybe 10 to 15 pages. And I got some samples for you. But it, it doesn't need to be 30 or 40 pages. What I'm saying is no one likes to sit and read a book about how you're going to start a business, but you have to have something in terms of that's going to explain how you're going to start a business. Understanding what the equipment costs, understanding inventory, licenses, what certifications does your staff need. If you're going into food service, the staff needs to be Safe Serve certified. Uh, who's going to be your vendors? I have a good friend that was in the restaurant industry, and he was an extremely great cook, and he had a few restaurants. I won't say his name because some of you might know him. He had a few restaurants around the city, but his problem was that he had a problem with the vendors. He was very charging and going forward, and he just didn't have enough. He didn't know when to ease off, so to speak. And when he got in trouble with the vendors, then he couldn't get the supplies he needed, and then he couldn't deliver the service that he needed. So, understanding what the needs are extremely important. And then our next thing is to choose the type of structure of business you're going to have. You need to have a financial relationship. I think that's the nice way of putting it, or a bank account. Your credit is going to be important. Because if you're not managing your bills effectively now, why would someone give you more money to further not manage your bills? Now, do you need to be perfect? No. But if you have some things that you need to take care of, you need to resolve those issues before you enter into this business opportunity. There are four major structures, and then actually there are about three more, but these are the main ones that in terms of four types of businesses. The sole proprietorship, that would be me. I'm going to start my own baking business. I'm going to bake bread. I got a nice commercial oven that I'm going to use, and it's all going to be on me. And like it says, the personal liability is unlimited. So if I make some bread and I don't identify that it has wheat in it, and I sell it to someone that said they have wheat allergies, I am liable. So sole proprietorships, and that's usually how most businesses start. Now, partnership, you may have a good buddy, and I make good bread, but he makes good pies or cookies. And you say, well, listen, we can do this together. In Ohio, a partnership can be verbal, uh, but you want to document in writing, in black and white, what the terms of the partnership is. So usually you'll have a shared liability. 50% of the business is yours, 50% is mine. Again, these are not too complex in terms of the partnerships. Now, some of us have heard LLC, and it's limited liability corporation, and that's one or more members. The bigger the business, you may need to structure it a little bit more so that you have more people involved in it. But the big thing here is you must clearly identify the limits of the partnership and how a person becomes a partner and how a person uh, withdraws from becoming a partner. So, like I said, it's limited liability protection, because now if my LLC was K. Austin Bakeries, is the name of my LLC. So if something were to happen and someone got the wrong type of food, or they get peanut allergies, and I didn't identify it, they're going to sue me personally, I'm sure, but they will also sue the LLC, and there I'll have some protection, or the group would have some protection. It gets a little bit moderate in terms of the complexity of how this is structured. And then corporation. Generally, unless you have a lot of money, you're not going to start out as a corporation where you have shareholders and then there's strong liability protection because everything is the company. If you have an issue with, I don't know, it's just I have on my desk some smart water that you bought and you're having some adverse reaction, you're going to have a lawsuit with the Smart Water Corporation primarily. And and you won't even know who the other people are that actually make the smart water. And so it is extremely difficult. Usually when you get to the corporation level, you got to have some legal representation involved in terms of assisting you. Single structure owners. And these are what we're talking about. And this is going to be most of us when we start our business. I am the sole proprietor and have full control over the operations and the profits. So the money we make and the expenses along the way. It's good to, when you start a business, there's a saying that they say, if you want to start a business and want to be successful, then you really are going to work twice as hard as you did when you were at your previous job, because the phone will always ring. You're going to be responsible for everything from the beginning to the end. The sole proprietorships have the ease of formation. It's merely just a registering with the state and get your EIN number. And then you have unlimited personal liability. So all the debts, all the responsibility, all the risk. And then financing and continuity are going to be your issues. If you have 2 or 3 people working for you, then you're going to be responsible for paying their salaries. You're going to be responsible for making sure you have enough funds to pay their salary. You're going to have to make sure you have enough funds to pay the insurances that are necessary. Where are we at? Partnerships, multi-structure on. So with partnerships, again, and we talked about this briefly before, you must clearly define the partnership. And again, Ohio, you can do a handshake deal, verbal deal. They're still legally binding, but in order to protect yourself in the business, you must draw up a contract. Even if it's your best friend, even if it's your brother, sister, mother, father, or whoever, it's best that you draw up an agreement so that you understand the types of liability, the agreements of the partnership. There are advantages and there's some challenges, but in order to avoid some of the conflicts that come up in running a business, you just must draw up a contract. And in some cases, you need an attorney if it's going to get to where it's very expensive. But in other cases, you can write up an agreement yourself. Everyone utilizes AI now, but utilize it for something that's to your benefit. But just make sure you read every word. Make sure you're clear on what it means. When we get to the LLCs, they're very popular because it reduces the personal liability. And they also give you some flexibility in terms of taxes, the formation and compliance. You have to keep up with state documents and taxes. There's a little bit more eyes on you, but the LLCs are very popular in terms of reducing the potential loss to your personal assets. And again, corporations, it's hopeful when everyone has a business that it will get big enough that you move into a corporation, where you have government structure, shareholders, um, and people that are looking to invest into your business, and um, profits and dividends and all those type things. So those are things that any small entrepreneur looks at, and they hope to aspire to get to over a period of time. And I know I've given you a lot of information, but there are some local resources here in the Cleveland area that for budding entrepreneurs that can help you. The first one that you see there is the Urban League of Cleveland. They have an entrepreneur workshop where they'll get a individual to work directly with you and help develop um, your idea into a business plan. Jumpstart, they operate in the same capacity. The Cleveland Foundation also, they have folks that can help with uh, finding grants that may help fund your business. And then a very good government-based website is smallbusinessassociation.gov. Tons and tons and tons of good information about the financing, the structuring, the partnerships, the relationships. The thing to remember as you start a business, you have to become very outgoing, outspoken, you or your partner, depending on how you structure this, um, because you are always going to be promoting your business no matter what you do. You're always going to be in the position to offer clients information or potential clients, or hopefully you'll get to a point where maybe somebody wants to buy you out. And a good example is uh, I was talking earlier about smart water, and smart water was an idea by and I can't remember the gentleman's formal name, but the rap singer 50 Cent. Uh, he came up with the smart water idea, and he had got it bottled and he was selling it. But someone from Coke or Pepsi realized that this is something that's going to really be really good, and they gave him a check for so many millions of dollars, and just from making flavored water. So again, no idea is a bad idea, and the worst you can have is try it and it doesn't work. So I know I pushed a lot of information on you, and I hope that you have access to this information going forward. But uh, that's the end of my slideshow, but I want to get in to see if there's any questions that you might have. So let me see if I can end that question. Let's, okay. Yeah, 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 that's the last slide. And also, you said you're going to post this in the site where they'll have access to it. Okay, and so also what they'll be posting, so you all know, is there's a sample business plan there, and there's a sample write-up of a business plan. So there are two samples that will help you with writing a business plan. And um, and that's a good question, and you don't want to get trapped into trying to make the perfect business plan. The business plan, the whole idea is that you want to give a person or entity or somebody that's with the money a good idea of what you want to do, but you still have to sell it. You still have to articulate it, and hey, this is what I want to do, and because they're going to fact check you to make sure you know about it. And so, yes, you definitely have to have that business plan, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Yes. Um, and again, the one agencies that I listed at the end of the presentation, Jumpstart, the Urban League, and the Cleveland Foundation. They can help you with the steps that you need to go through for filing. 501c3 now it is for the nonprofits. I think the only big difference with the nonprofits with the nonprofits, you have to establish a board, a governing board of your business. And that's not necessary for the for-profit vehicles. So that's a tricky question. And the answer, and I'm not being messing with you, is enough. You need to be enough. It has to make sense to someone else. And I mean, all of it, and that's where it goes to having a mentor or having someone that will give you tell it to you right. You know, I know if I go to Anna and ask her something, she's gonna say no, that you are out of your mind, or this doesn't tell me anything. And you need someone that cares enough about you to tell the truth. So when you say how much research, you don't want to spend 5 years over in the library at Cleveland State trying to figure this thing out, because what's going to happen is somebody else is going to get in there and try it, and you're going to say, that's what I was going to do. So I would say enough so that it makes sense. And at least you know resources. If someone says, I need more information, okay, I'll be right back. In the beginning, and I believe in Ohio, 'cause I was just reading an article about it, you may need to get a tax ID number or EIN number. And if you go on the uh, irs.gov, it will give you the details on how to get that. And also with these other agencies, the Cleveland Foundation, Jumpstart, and the Urban League. And on that small uh, sba.gov, they will have the information for you on how to get that. Well, remember earlier on, I was talking that uh, you have to first, okay, what is it that you're going to do? Like I said, I was using food service because I'm familiar with it, but my father became a plumber when he got older, and you know, where is his customers coming from? Initially, you know, and I got drafted because I'm the youngest, so I got drafted just putting flyers on all the houses on the street, you know, and everywhere we went, and if he was working on a job or something, he said, go and give these people my business card, everybody that you see. So you have to do your own marketing, but and part of the marketing is figuring out if you have a demand. You know, if you're going to do a landscaping business, well, it wouldn't do you, it would be hard to do one downtown here where we're located because it's not that much grass. But if you go in the neighborhood, and you might have to go and again, you might have a partner that's very good at talking and you're very good at doing. And so you have the talker get up there and smile and do what they have to do to get the customers in. And then it's just a matter of you got to do the legwork. You got to do the legwork. That is a great question, and that is an opinion question. I'm going to give you my opinion. The answer is no. Now, if you asked me that about 15 years ago, I would have said yes. But times have changed, If you don't have a grasp of using social media, then your business is probably going to suffer. So I know there are some of us are older, and they'll say, well, I don't use Facebook, I don't use Instagram, I don't use TikTok, I don't use any of that stuff. But these are where people are getting their information from. And I just name a few of the basic ones. There's about 10 more. So you need to get digitally aware of how to promote yourself. Websites, the actually, I guess the complaint with websites is that it's too slow. And so people, the younger folks, they need information right away. And as the younger folks become older folks, they still need information right away. So do you need a website? Maybe, but you need a digital presence, and you need to increase your competency in that area. Um, I guess just like what I was just referring to is that there is software for just about everything now. And starting a business, there's tax software to do your taxes. There is bookkeeping software, and that's even it's not so much that you purchase the software, you just get access to the software now. At times it kind of changed. I remember you used to buy the disc and put it in and load it and all that. And you have to learn how to use cloud-based software and cloud-based uh, uh, computer digital stuff so that you can manage it. But there's stuff that will do all your bookkeeping. There's stuff that will manage your staff. There's stuff that will manage your taxes. Um, Again, it's making the time to get digitally competent is the new word. No, digital readiness, increasing your digital readiness, using AI. Everyone throws it out now, but you have to be somewhat competent in utilizing AI to your advantage. Oh yeah, that's a good question. How do you avoid it? We're all wired differently. You know, I sleep more now, but when I was younger, I only slept about 4.5, 5 hours a night. Because I had to get up and I had to do stuff. And so everyone, what your motor is. If you need to have 8 hours of sleep, and my wife needs 9, but everybody needs something. Uh, and you have to set some expectations, and that's where it comes working with a mentor, someone that's done this business before, or someone that has some experience, or someone that's retired. They can give you, so you set realistic expectations, and then that's probably the best advice I can give you. It's going to be hard in the beginning, but you work hard in the beginning so that it's easier down the line. And then to know when, hey, you know what, this isn't working. And to know when to say, I gotta pivot and do something different. So there, I am pretty sure, let me look here. I'm pretty sure in one of the forms that I sent you, it talks about a break-even analysis. And on average, they say it takes about 5 years for you to flatten out. The first year to two, they are ramping up, and then maybe it's even people figure out that, you know, And if Anna makes pies, Anna's pies are really good, but they're just okay now, and it kind of flattens out. And then unless you make some pivots or adjustments, it can go down, it can stay even, or it can go up again. But about 5 years is where you will see, and if you look in your neighborhood, um, they come in like gangbusters, and then in a couple years, it kind of evens off, and then some of them stay and some of them go. So it's about a 5 year window that you evaluate if this is doing well for you. Yeah, 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 yeah. Many times, folks have gone out to start to do one thing, and then they found out that another, I'm making pies and cakes, but people really just like my crust, or they're buying what was it, Dunkin' Donuts. They were making the donuts, and they were throwing away the holes in the middle until someone said, "Hey, you know what? We could really sell those holes," and people would, and that became one of their biggest products after a while. So that's right. Hmm. I, I think, depending on what you believe in, you have to have a a moment of solitude, or come to Jesus moment with yourself. Do you want to do this, or do you not want to do it? And you have, you know, if you commit to doing it, then give yourself a reasonable amount of time before you start evaluating it, because you can expect some downtime, or you can expect some slow months, and then you can expect some great months. And before you don't have time to worry when you're running your own business, which is most of us in the beginning, because you're going to be busy. Uh, and as you build the relationships with investors, because you're always marketing your business, as you build relationships with excuse me, legal people, uh, you know, other affiliates that you can partner with, um, you don't have that time to worry, because you're constantly pushing the business forward. So, one thing to stop doing is, one thing that we talk about is, and this is, I guess, going into humanities a little bit, but you have a circle of trust of people around you, and you have to look at that circle, and the people closest to the middle of that circle are the ones you can depend on. They're going to tell it to you straight. They're going to say, "Anna, it's looking good." Or they're going to say, "Anna, it's not looking good." And they're not going to badger you or beat you down, but they're going to give you the information that you need, how you need to hear it. And the people on the edge of your circle are the ones that I told you it wasn't going to work. And you need to remove those people from your immediate circle so that you can focus on the people that are thinking like you and moving forward like you. And then you'll have less to worry about as you move forward in terms of getting your business together. Yes. Yes, I will put my um name and stuff in the box. Oops. Wait a minute. I hit the wrong button. Isn't that what they always say? 677 extension 61 and my email as well. Then .org. Austin. So, okay. I ask that you give me at least 24 hours from the time you leave a message, because I'm not always in the office, and I work out of 3 sites, and so I just want to make sure that I have enough time to get back to you. So 24 to 48 will be fair.